Have you ever watched someone powerful realize, live on camera, that they have completely lost control? You are about to. Nobody in that massive arena knew what was inside the digital file Madonna's production manager queued up before the broadcast went live. Not the network executives, not the VIP audience, not even Donald Trump's Secret Service detail standing in the wings. By the time the massive screens flickered, the trap had already snapped shut. The stage lights pushed 2 stops brighter than rehearsal, washing the charity gala's main platform in an unforgiving, clinical white. The air inside the auditorium feels compressed, thick with the electric static of 20,000 held breaths. Madonna stands center stage, absolutely still, her hand resting lightly on the microphone stand. She is not performing, not animating the crowd, just waiting with a terrifying stillness. The floor director stands in the shadows with his headset pushed entirely off his left ear, sensing a deviation from the run of show that no one authorized. Sound vanishes from the room, leaving a silence that acts as a physical weight. Donald Trump's walk from the VIP wing is slow, deliberate, and heavy, projecting a gravitational pull designed to claim the stage before he even reaches the center. The stage accepts his weight the way a fault line accepts a tremor, shifting the entire energy of the room toward his physical presence. He pauses briefly at the edge of the spotlight, adjusting the cuffs of his dark suit jacket in a physical manifestation of establishing territory. Approaching the secondary podium, he plants his feet wide, spreading his stance to dominate the visual frame and shrink the space around him. His eyes lock onto Madonna with a flat, calculating superiority that demands immediate submission. His first words bleed through the massive line array speakers, a calculated insult masked as casual banter. "I was told this was an important gala, but it looks more like a desperate tribute act begging for relevance." He does not stop there, launching into a rhythmic barrage designed to suffocate the room with sheer volume. "Your records used to matter, but without me standing here tonight, this broadcast wouldn't even register a blip on the network ratings," he projects, leaning into the microphone so the proximity effect amplifies the bass in his voice. He pivots to a personal attack, dismissing her legacy as the bitter clinging of a fading star, chasing headlines she can no longer earn organically. "I run rooms like this every day. I dictate the outcomes of global economies, and I certainly don't need a lecture from someone whose time passed 2 decades ago," he insists, sweeping his hand toward the silent audience. He dismisses her entirely, turning his shoulders slightly away to address the front row directly. "People tune in to see winners, and I am the only winner standing on this stage right now." Through this entire onslaught, Madonna remains completely silent, watching him and absorbing the barrage without a single flinch or shift in posture. A man in the 4th row grips his armrests, his knuckles turning white as the uncomfortable tension stretches. The silence becomes a weapon, wrapping around his words like a tightening tourniquet, and the longer Trump's noise fills the void, the more hollow it sounds. Then, Madonna moves. She steps half a pace closer to her microphone, and when she finally speaks, her voice drops lower, entirely devoid of the theatrical projection of a pop star. "That was a performance, and it was convincing, but performances end, and this conversation is just starting." The arena goes dead quiet, the kind of absolute stillness that only occurs when thousands of people simultaneously realize a script has been torn to shreds. The massive LED screen spanning the backdrop flickers to life, abandoning the gala's branding for a grainy video clip from 4 years ago. It shows Trump at a private dinner, laughing off a question about back-channel communications with a dismissive wave of his hand, calling the very idea a pathetic media fabrication. Tonight, stripped of the sycophantic laughter that accompanied it then, the clip lands with a sickening thud. Madonna looks at him, her gaze utterly devoid of emotion, and asks a devastatingly simple question about why his private calendar from that exact week was scrubbed from the public record. Trump shakes his head, attempting to interrupt with a loud denial about doctored footage. She does not raise her voice to compete, simply letting his denial hang in the air for a 4-second pause before gesturing to the production booth. She reaches into the interior pocket of her tailored blazer with agonizing slowness, pulling out a thick black smartphone rather than a stage prop. "The network asked me to stick to the teleprompter," she says quietly, "but I preferred to read directly from your personal iCloud backup." Trump's hand twitches toward his own pocket, a sudden aborted gesture of panic, before he steps aggressively toward her podium. Her security detail does not move, because Madonna simply holds her hand up, a flat, firm, controlled barrier that stops him dead in his tracks. The camera operator down in the pit catches the fine tremor vibrating through Trump's right wrist. The screen behind them shifts again, displaying a meticulously constructed visual timeline of text messages, time-stamped and cross-referenced with public public flight logs. The dates connect mysterious public absences to private, encrypted demands for untraceable funds. These dates don't just align, Madonna states, her voice slicing through the thick air. They form a geometry. Trump tries to talk over the projection, his volume spiking as he calls the texts an illegal, AI-generated hoax designed by his political enemies. Madonna slows her cadence down even further, forcing the audience to hang on every syllable. A woman in the VIP section covers her mouth with both hands, her eyes wide as the implications of the timestamps become undeniable. The silence following her counter is suffocating. Then, the next layer drops. A raw, unmastered audio recording plays through the arena's concert-grade sound system. It is Trump's own voice, stripped of its usual bravado, caught on a hot mic backstage at a rally 2 years prior. The phrase is short, unguarded, and financially devastating, demanding the immediate liquidation of a shadow account before the authorities could freeze it. The audience is physically hit by the sound, a collective, sharp intake of breath rippling from the floor to the nosebleeds. Trump jabs an aggressive finger at the soundboard, shouting that the audio is spliced, a desperate, breathless claim of deepfake manipulation. Madonna calmly presses a button on her podium, bringing up the forensic acoustic verification certificate from an independent federal laboratory. The undeniable proof renders his shouting instantly pathetic. A door near the side stage curtain opens, and 2 people walk out into the unforgiving light. The first is a former logistics staffer, a young man who looks terrified but resolute. He steps to a tertiary microphone and delivers a short, procedural testimony about carrying burner phones across state lines, detailing exactly who gave the order and when. "I rehearsed walking away 6 times in the parking garage before I came inside to quit," the staffer admits, his voice shaking but controlled. Trump attacks his credibility immediately, yelling into his mic that the kid is a fired, bitter loser looking for a book deal. The staffer absorbs the attack by standing perfectly still, letting the desperation in Trump's voice ring hollow. Then, the second witness steps forward. It is a former senior assistant, someone deeply embedded in the inner circle and bound by a mountain of non-disclosure agreements. Her testimony is raw and emotional, detailing the isolation, the threats, and the personal cost of enforced secrecy. Her throat works visibly before the words come, her fingers gripping each other until they are entirely colorless. A single tear falls down her cheek, and she does not bother to wipe it away. Trump leans into his microphone, his face flushed dark red, shouting that she is betraying the family. The assistant looks directly at him, her voice breaking but laced with titanium. "They didn't buy my silence, they rented it, and the lease just expired." The audience does not cheer. They break, slowly and deliberately. One man stands up and begins to clap. Another joins him. Soon, the entire arena is clapping in a slow, rolling wave. It is not wild applause, but real, raw, deliberate validation for the truth stepping into the light. The screen splits in half, revealing the final piece of the cascade. On the left, domestic wire transfers are displayed. On the right, records from a foreign private banking clinic registered under a documented alias sit in stark contrast. The alignment is absolute, leaving absolutely no room for interpretation or spin. Trump's denials shift frantically from calling the documents fake to screaming that obtaining them was highly illegal. It is the sound of pure panic wearing anger's mask. His physical collapse happens through a rapid, devastating accumulation of tells. His breathing becomes heavily audible, his chest rising and falling in ragged, shallow intervals. His hands, previously gripping the podium edges, wipe repeatedly at his hairline, dragging across the sudden sheen of sweat forming there. His posture, once expansive and dominant, begins to slump, his shoulders stiffening as he physically leans away from the damning evidence displayed on the screen. His eyes dart frantically around the room, refusing to settle on Madonna, the witnesses, or the front row, ultimately going completely blank. His jaw clenches and works side to side, grinding on empty space. His verbal progression mirrors the physical ruin. He cycles from confident denial to accusing the entire network of a coordinated ambush, then to a procedural complaint about legal harassment. He attempts a final burst of empty bravado, claiming he has survived far worse witch hunts, before his voice trails off into an agonizing silence. Madonna looks at him, the executioner delivering the final stroke. "You walked in here to control this room. Now answer it." Trump opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. The implosion escapes the building almost instantly. Backstage, the chaos is absolute but eerily quiet. A camera operator keeps her lens trained on the empty space between the two podiums for a full 30 seconds, entirely unable to look away from the wreckage. A political aide in the wings types so frantically on his phone that autocorrect produces pure nonsense for 3 consecutive messages. Trump storms down the exit corridor without responding to his detail, moving the way a man moves through a house he knows is already on fire. Madonna walks the opposite direction in total silence, the sheer contrast becoming the defining story of the night. Within 8 minutes, the first unauthorized recording from an audience member's phone is live. Within 20 minutes, the confrontation has been segmented into 12 independent pieces, flooding every major digital platform. News networks cut into their late-night programming, their graphics departments frantically rebuilding the timeline with red circles and glowing arrows. Anchors replay the confrontation, letting the silence sit for a full segment without adding a single word of commentary. Trump's counterattack begins 2 hours later on social media, his posts escalating in frantic fury, the capital letters increasing, and the exclamation marks multiplying. Yet, beneath every angry post, users reply with screenshots of the exact text messages he is desperately trying to deny. The juxtaposition is devastating. People are no longer debating politics. They are dissecting the psychology of a man's total collapse on a live stage. The key phrase from the assistant's testimony becomes a global hashtag by dawn, trending across borders and languages. Hours later, the legal filings hit the dockets, but emergency motions cannot unring a bell. The geometry does not lie, even when the man standing at the center of it does. When the infrastructure of power is finally dragged into the light, the silence that follows is always louder than the noise that built it. If this changed how you see power, hit subscribe. If it didn't, watch it again. The details you missed the first time are the ones that matter most. Notifications on. Next one drops soon.